angel. You're right. I think that it would be very difficult to follow in a regular situation, but our next speaker is phenomenal, and I think a lot of you know him. His name is Father Zachary Byrne, T-O-R. Yes. He's amazing. If you haven't heard him, you're in for a treat. So Father Zachary is the parochial vicar at Good Shepherd Catholic Community in Colleyville. He grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania and attended St. Francis University in Loretto, Pennsylvania, where he earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in elementary and special education. He professed his first vows with his TOR community in May of 2015 and was ordained to the priesthood in July of 2020. He has been working with the board of directors who put this on as our spiritual director, and we are so blessed by his wise counsel. At the end of his talk, we'll do a quick little Q&A. So it's my pleasure to introduce Father Zachary Burns.
I'm used to this. I am a murderer. I have killed every plant that has ever been left in my care. I suppose I'm very aware that this makes me a very pitiful Franciscan. We're supposed to be these great advocates, for the honoring of God through the care of his creation, and here I am killing all of the plants that I can kill. And before you alert the EPA or something, I want to be very clear that every plant that I have ever killed has been killed by accident. It's nothing personal. I don't have some kind of vendetta against peace lilies and begonias and stuff like that. In fact, quite the opposite. I like plants. They're very nice. They're beautiful. I hate the idea that if I fail, if I fail to tend to them, or if I neglect them, they might wither and die, and it will be no one's fault but my own. And this is why I water the ever-living heck out of houseplants. Total saturation, just jugs and jugs of water. I want to see those things swimming in water. There will be no plants turning brown and shriveling up on my watch. No plant goes thirsty under my care. Well, it turns out this is not exactly the best way to care for plants. Apparently, there is such a thing as overwatering a plant. Who knew? Sometimes less is more. And I know this now. I figured this out. I may be a poor gardener, but I'm not completely devoid of common sense. I can see this correlation between my actions and the death of these plants. The more that I water them, the faster they die. This is cause and effect, right? Kindergarten type stuff. But awareness of this correlation has yet to change my ways. I cannot explain this, but I am incapable of not watering these plants. I see them sitting in this dry, crusty soil, and I have to give them water. I have to do it. I imagine them just kind of like smacking their dry lips together, just calling out for nourishment, and I cannot help but come to the rescue. But this is normal, right? This is normal. This is human. Whenever a human being acts in the role of a caretaker, we innately believe that the more care we provide, the more nourishment and the more protection we offer, the better the outcome will be. I used to have guinea pigs when I was growing up. My mom never let us have a dog. In retrospect, I understand why. I wasn't the kind of kid who would have neglected a dog, right, failing to take him on walks or never picking up after him. Rather, I was the kind of kid that would have smothered that poor dog to death. I would not have been able to leave for school without that dog. As it was even with my little guinea pigs. Before heading off to the bus stop each morning, I would hold them and pet them, and I would treat them as if I were leaving for an extended tour of military duty overseas and might never see them again. I would take care of them, and I would fill their water, and I would absolutely just bombard their cage with all of this alfalfa grass and all of these fresh veggies I would steal from the refrigerator, and then I'd put all these little guinea pig pellets in there, all the pellets that one could desire. And then I would get home at the end of the school day and everything would just be a bunch of gross mush in the cage. It was too much, right? I tried to feed them, I tried to give them a home, but it was overkill. They would eat maybe one of the 23 carrots I would put in there, and then they would just poop all over the rest. And all of the extra food I would put in there would go all over the cage, and then it would get wet, and it would turn into this kind of green sludge. And you know, if anything, my efforts at caring for them, it did more harm than good. And I think this is what so many of us are inclined to do. We care, and that's good, but we don't always care in the best way. We see a seed entrusted to us, and we believe that the more we water it, the faster it will bloom, the higher it will reach. But this isn't the case. Even though I cared for every houseplant ever entrusted to me, I've never been a good gardener. Even though I cared certainly for my 2 guinea pigs, I was never the owner that I could have been. I expect that many parents can relate to this. I especially expect that many mothers can relate to this. Mothers, grandmothers, spiritual mothers, mothers in any capacity. Nurturing a child and protecting the child from harm is the most motherly of instincts, right? Growing up in the middle of the woods in Pennsylvania in the Pocono Mountains, there were 2 things that we knew about the world, right? 1, you should always check your ankles for ticks after you're in the woods. 2, never ever get between a mama bear and her cubs, right? That was my greatest fear in life, that one day I would find myself in the woods, I'd look to one side and see 2 cute little baby cubs, and then to the other side, and there would be mom just staring me down. Moms nourish, moms protect. It's an instinct. It's a natural and a good instinct. But even good instincts have their limits, right? I instinctively want to take a nap at around 2 p.m. every day. It would be nice to do that now and again, but if I did it every day, I would get nothing done, right? I instinctively want to sing at the top of my lungs every single time Toto's Africa comes on the radio. And that would be a great instinct if I were by myself in the shower, for instance, but not such a great instinct if I'm like, I have somebody important that I'm transporting in my car, right? I don't sing like Jackie does, okay? It would not be pretty. Point is, all mothers instinctively care. All mothers instinctively have a desire to nurture and protect, but the desire to over-nurture and over-protect should be fought at all costs. The overwatered plant will drown. The over-nurtured, over-protected child will suffer a similar fate. Not death per se, but the death of independence, the death of risk, the death of vulnerability, the death of so many of the things that constitute a good and a fruitful life. And that's what I want to talk about with you all this morning. The tendency that we might have to overwater the seeds that are placed in our care, and the model that we should imitate if we want to water those seeds effectively. Now, given the fact that I am a man speaking at a women's conference, I didn't overlook this fact, not to mention I'm a man who's also a priest, I want to focus specifically on ways that women can water seeds that will blossom into strong, masculine men, open to the vocation of the priesthood, or a holy marriage. I'm going to try not to be too biased here. Why am I focusing on this area? I could have come up with a million topics, I guess. I'm focusing on this because I think it's necessary. I think we live in a culture that glorifies the emasculation of men, glorifies the coddling of men, and that's to the detriment of society, obviously. Weak men breed hard times, and I believe that the authentic feminine witness of women, specifically mothers and all who fulfill that motherly role in the life of any young person, that's the remedy to weak men. And that's the roadmap I want to lay out for you all today. Okay, so I could go on bemoaning the consequences of an overbearing mother in the life of a man, especially a young and impressionable man. But let's take a break from that and instead look at a positive example of a mother. A positive example of a mother. I think that will be more helpful. Actually, let's look at the best possible example of a mother, the mother who loved and cared deeply, but did not hesitate to let her son die. And I'm speaking, of course, of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Canadian philosopher and psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson said that the Blessed Virgin Mary is the archetype of the courageous woman who says yes, even though she knows what her yes will entail. She knows the pain and the suffering that will entail, but she says yes anyway because she understands the greater good. I know it's not even Halloween yet, but if you want to listen to a really bad Christmas song, it's Mary, Did You Know? Mary, did you know? I hear some groans, okay. Mary, did you know? Of course she knew, right? Of course she knew. That's the whole point. She knew and she said yes anyway. That's why I have so much respect for mothers today in this spiritually confused time, in this in this political climate that we live in this time when perhaps true religious persecution does not seem too far around the next bend.